All right, now we will finish up dietary adaptations with Lecture 6, Presentation 3, and then in Presentations 4 and 5, we'll go on to locomotor adaptations. The majority of omnivores are haplorhines: platyrrhine capuchin monkeys, numerous catarrhine Old World monkeys, and most of the African apes. Strepsirrhine omnivory is limited primarily to a few diurnal lemurs, crowned lemurs, ring-tailed lemurs, and a few nocturnal species. Let's focus on one of the nocturnal strepsirrhine omnivores. Though it isn't listed as an omnivore, the nocturnal ii of Madagascar has remarkable specializations for consuming a variety of foods. The ii has the largest brain size relative to body size of all strepsirrhines. An examination of its feeding behaviors suggests the value of that oversized brain. The ii is a sweetly odd and highly specialized strepsirrhine. It uses ever-growing incisors, it's the only primate with these, to extract foods in protective barriers. And it gets a terrific assist from a super skinny middle finger. This is used as a supersensory probe that can bend backwards. The ii is a solitary nocturnal forager. It engages in long nightly travel driven by intense curiosity about locked away foods. It checks behind, within, and beneath every object it encounters, looking for hidden foods. It employs its skinny middle finger to tap, prod, spear, and prepare lovely nightly snacks. The harder the food is to retrieve, the more it works to extract it. What foods does it consume? Well, eggs. What it does is it takes its incisors and it gnaws away the top of the egg. Then it sticks that skinny middle finger down through the hole and whips it around to make a frothy foam, which it knocks back and drinks, just like an orange Julius. Honey. It gets the honeycomb. It uses that skinny middle finger to poke in and out. It licks off its finger, in and out, it licks off its finger. It can work a honeycomb until it gets all of the honey out of each of the pockets. Lychee fruit. I know this one from being in the rainforest. The only way I could open one was with a machete. It's much easier for an ii. It gets to the lychee fruit, it burrows away with those central incisors, then it takes its finger and it slides it around beneath the skin on the outside of the lychee fruit, right by the fruit pulp itself, and then it peels away the outside covering and it eats the fruit. Coconuts? Ask Tom Hanks. They're hard to get into, but not a problem for the ii. It just burrows away with those teeth and uses that sharp middle finger to work away until it gets a hole into the coconut, and then it can burrow in further and get to the milk and the fruit part. What about grubs? Well, they don't seem like they'd be hard to access. They're soft and smushy. They don't have an exoskeleton, and they don't have stingers. How hard could this be? Well, as every woodpecker knows, grubs burrow deep within trees, protected by tree bark. So, what does the ii do? Well, it taps its finger on tree bark, listening for a grubby response. When it hears movement beneath the tree bark, it starts gnawing away at the bark. Then it inserts that middle finger and probes, bending the finger backwards and forwards until it gets to a grub, and then, voila, it spears it and it has a yummy, grubby snack. The ii is a little funny looking, but then so is Steve Buscemi. Both need their odd characteristics to do their jobs. And every II child learns how to forage for food as he or she accompanies mom every night, watching her mine the forest for its hidden food treasures. So now let's take a look at the anatomical correlates of dietary behavior. The anatomical correlates of dietary behavior form the basis of our interpretation of dietary adaptations in this extinct ape dating to 13 million years ago in Spain. What did Paralopithecus catalonicus eat? Okay, this one gets a little more complicated now. We have the anatomical correlates of dietary behaviors. We've got 4 dietary categories: faunivory, also known as insectivory, frugivory, frugivory, and omnivory. And there are 3 factors that are important here: total body mass, so how much the animal weighs; incisors at the front of the mouth, their shape; and the premolars and molars, the cheek teeth at the back of the mouth. What is their cusp height and shape? So let's go through this, and then I will work you through these as we go through the next slides. So faunivory has a total body mass limit of less than 500 grams. 500 grams is 1.1 pound, so our faunivores must weigh less than 1.1 pound. Their incisors are narrow, they look almost like baby teeth, and their premolars and molars, the cusps on top of the teeth, are high and pointed. For the fulivores, they must weigh more than 500 grams, the opposite of the faunivores. So more than 1.1 pound, and I'm going to tell you right now, most weigh much more than 1.1 pound. They also have narrow incisors, but their premolars and molars are high, but they've got crests across them. Then for the frugivores, they have no body mass limitations. Their incisors are broad from side to side and spatulate. They have like a scoop at the back of the central incisors. And the back teeth, the premolars and molars, are very low and rounded. And for the omnivores, they also don't have total body mass restrictions. Any body weight goes. They also have broad and spatulate incisors. But at the back of the mouth with the cheek teeth, the premolars and molars, they can have any shape of cusp. So high and pointed, high and crested, low and rounded, anything is possible. And we'll talk about the complications with determining an omnivore very soon. You may be wondering why canines are not mentioned here. Canines may be used to grasp foods, but for most primates, particularly the catarrhines, Old World monkeys and apes, canines are social visual signals of adult biological sex, male versus female. This does not apply to the human catarrhines. The best example of primate faunivory is the tarsier. Look at where the red arrows are in this image. Those are very narrow incisors at the front of the mouth. Then look at where the blue arrows are at the bottom of the page. Those are pointing to high and pointed cusps on the premolars and molars. And the total body mass is less than 500 grams. So those premolars and molars with those points on them are designed to puncture. Why is a small body mass so important to a faunivore? Faunivorous primates are not picky. They eat small vertebrates, reptiles, amphibians, birds, etc., and even smaller invertebrates, insects, arachnids, etc. If a primate is dependent on small-sized animal consumption for most of its calories, it cannot afford to be large in body size. So a tarsier will eat whatever it can get its hands and teeth onto. It doesn't care whether it's a vertebrate or an invertebrate, which is why I don't say insectivorous, I say faunivorous. And also something else to know about the tarsier, it has a voracious appetite and is rarely satisfied. So, a great example of primate faulivory comes from the howler monkey. Look at the red arrows. Again, you have those narrow incisors. They look like baby teeth. And then at the blue area, we have high and crested cusps on premolars and molars. And I'm going to take a marker here to try to show this to you. It's not easy to see. But right here over on the left, that's a crest. And that crest is going to work against complementary crests over here on the upper teeth and down along here and back along here. These create shearing surfaces or shearing edges. So the shear is like a scissor blade. And when one scissor blade comes up against another scissor blade, they don't hit edge to edge. Instead, they glance across one another so that they can cut things up like scissors. At least as best I can draw it here. All right, so in occlusion, oh, and the total body mass is more than 500 grams, well over 500 grams. In occlusion, that means when tooth surface comes against tooth surface with the premolars and molars, the crests act like blades so that cheek teeth can shear, cut leaves into tiny particle sizes. Why do these guys need to have large total body mass? Plant foods have plenty of proteins, but also contain tough cellulose fibers. In order to get rid of the fiber and access the protein, the primate needs large guts. Gut size increases with total body mass. As I like to say, it takes guts to be a folivore. Also, folivorous primates spend an inordinate amount of time resting and digesting. Long naps are common for primates that are highly folivorous. They've got to digest. A great example of primates' frugivory is a close relative of the howler monkey, the spider monkey. So take a look at the red arrows and you will see broad and spatulate incisors at the front of the mouth, very broad from side to side. And if you look closely, you'll see that there is a scoop area. Let me see if I can highlight this for you. We'll use blue. Right back here, there's a pocket right here and a pocket right here. Now, if you take the tip of your tongue or your finger and you feel behind your central upper incisors, you have the same pocket. You have broad and spatulate incisors. And then on the back teeth, the premolars and molars, we have very low and rounded cusps. Nothing special about them. Total body mass, no limits. Any size is fine for a primate frugivore. So the incisors are designed to cut through the outside skin of fruit and then to scoop it up so that you get the pulp to the back teeth, and the back teeth or cheek teeth are designed to pulp and juice things up. Why doesn't total body mass or size matter? Fruit has vitamin C and carbohydrate, but lacks protein. Tiny-bodied frugivores like the mouse lemurs here obtain their proteins from animal sources, mostly insects. And large-bodied frugivores like the orangutan here have the gut size to digest plant proteins. Omnivores are definitely the most challenging to identify. They can be difficult to identify because their dental adaptations are either clearly omnivorous, as we see with the faunivorous mix and the folivorous mix, or look exactly like those of a frugivore, as you see on the right. So all will have frugivorous spatulate central incisors. But look at the one on the left. You've got fruit-eating adaptations at the front of the mouth, and at the back you have faunivorous, high and pointed premolars and molars. This means that this animal is eating fruit at the front, animal matter at the back, clearly omnivorous. And the one in the middle has frugivorous spatulate incisors at the front. And look at the back teeth. The cheek teeth show folivorous, high and crested premolars and molars. So the front of the mouth for fruit, the back of the mouth for foliage, clearly omnivorous. And then we get to the one on the right. It's got frugivorous adaptations at the front and frugivorous low and rounded premolars and molars at the back. To distinguish between a frugivore and an omnivore with frugivorous back teeth, we need to observe diet in the wild. We always have to exercise caution whenever we see frugivorous dentition because we may be looking at an omnivore. But if you've got the mixes like we saw on the left and in the center, clearly omnivorous. So what did our 13 million year old extinct Spanish ape eat? Well, total body mass was over 500 grams. Its head weighed over 500 grams, so it ate plant proteins. Incisors are broad and spatulate. It could eat fruit. And the cheek teeth are high and crested. Plants, foliage. Oh, fruit plus foliage? The ancient ape was probably omnivorous, as are most of the great apes today. Given the large canines, the ape was probably male. Now you are ready for Lecture 6, Presentation 4, and we get started with locomotion.